With two key players on injured reserve, the Boston Bruins called up a pair from Providence in advance of two key games against New York area teams this weekend. But other guys need to step up in the absence of Charlie McAvoy and Pavel Zacha, and we'll talk about who they are and what's ahead this weekend on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be. Friday. It is December 15th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine this week. Free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The Boston Bruins are in action tonight and tomorrow night, taking on the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. And they remain without both Charlie McAvoy and Pavel Zacha, both of whom were placed on injured reserve on Thursday. And that allowed the Bruins to make a couple of recalls. Don't get too excited. There's no Fabian Lysell or Georgi Merkulov coming up. Patrick Brown was recalled from Providence, as was defenseman Parker Wotherspoon. Brown, 31-year-old, appeared in 8, rather uninspiring games with the Bruins this season, recording 1 assist. 6 games down with Providence, he's got 1 goal and 1 assist, 2 total points. Why was he recalled as opposed to a Lysell or a Merkulov? You know, the Bruins need a bit of an offensive injection here, somebody to get them going. Patrick Brown is not it. But as we'll discuss later on in the podcast, there are some guys already in the lineup who could provide that boost. And I'm assuming Brown was recalled in order to just give the Bruins a steadying veteran presence here amid these injuries. He does have 146 games of NHL experience, only 25 points in that time, but he's there to kill penalties. He's there to be defensively responsible. He's there to, as a 31-year-old, bring some veteran experience and know-how and to keep things level amid these injuries. So not the most exciting recall, but it serves a purpose, I suppose. Parker Wotherspoon was also recalled, and he has appeared in 3 games with the Bruins this season, 1 assist to his credit. 19 games with Providence, he's got 1 goal and 4 assists. He's only skated in 15 NHL games total, with 2 assists to his credit after being drafted in the 4th round back in 2015. Side note, speaking of 2015, Jakub Zboril cleared waivers the other day, and his future is kind of up in the air at the moment. Not really sure where he's going to fit in. Perhaps he'll get some time with Providence here now with Lori, Wotherspoon, and Ian Mitchell all up with the Bruins. And in fact, the Bruins are carrying 7 defensemen at the moment. Lindholm, Carlo, Grzelcyk, Shattenkirk, the remaining core guys from what's expected to be the top 6 when everybody's healthy, with Lori, Mitchell, and Wotherspoon there as well. And keep in mind, the Bruins have back-to-back games this weekend, so you'll likely see some guys shuffling in and out in an attempt to keep the lineup fresh and keep guys rested and not overworked. They also have 14 forwards with Boqvist already having been recalled. Brown in the mix. Oskar Steen still up there as well. Keep in mind, of course, the Bruins are without Pavel Zacha. And, of course, Milan Lucic also on the sidelines as he continues to be in the player assistance program and facing a court hearing in January. So that's kind of the lay of the land here as the Bruins prepare for tonight's game against the New York Islanders. It remains to be seen whether or not they will deviate from the lineup from the other night that lost 2-1 in overtime to the New Jersey Devils. Will Jacob Lauko or Oskar Steen come out in favor of either Boqvist or Brown? John Beecher, I think he's done enough lately and got the message recently from a scratch to remain in the lineup. Will Morgan Geekie stay up on the top line with Pastrnak and DeBrusk? We'll have to see how it all shakes out, but the Bruins' depth is being tested here. They elected not to go young in their recall of a forward at the very least, and we'll see how that pays off here for them during these games. But there are some guys who do need to step up that are already mainstays in the lineup, and we'll discuss those here in a moment as the podcast continues. If you want to surprise someone this Christmas with some hockey tickets in their stockings, well, Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They have amazing last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and best price guarantees, taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the views from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect. And their Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Perfect for gift giving this holiday season. Terms do apply, but create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price. Guaranteed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On local and national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Quick reminder, if you're on social media, you can find the podcast on X, Instagram, Threads at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. All right, so I mentioned that the Bruins elected not to go with some promising young players from Providence for this recall, choosing instead Patrick Brown. Now, why would they do that? Well, perhaps they wanted that veteran presence, and they want some of the younger guys already in the lineup to step up here a little bit. Jake DeBrusk isn't really a young guy. He's getting up there. He's been around for quite a while. But at present, he's sitting on 3 goals, 5-on-5. And he's a guy that really needs to up his game here. And, I mean, in reality, he has played pretty well. He's not leading, but he's third on the Bruins in shot attempts in all situations with 113. He's taken he's generated 67 scoring chances, 35 of which are high danger. He's creating rebounds. He's playing well defensively. He's helping the team, overall. But we really need to see that shooting percentage go up a little bit here, and for him to find some pop. And shooting percentage wise, right now, 6.9%, which is well below what he achieved last season at 14.14. If he was doing the same success shooting wise, he'd have, I'm no math guy, but that's more than double his current. So 8, 9, pushing 10 goals. He's just not getting the puck luck at the moment, and hopefully he's able to find that here over the course of the weekend. He's playing with Morgan Geekie, David Pastrnak, and hopefully he's able to get things going, because they need Jake DeBrusk not just to be responsible defensively and killing penalties and things like that, but they really need him to start putting the puck in the net. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And he is only got 4 goals in 26 games, level with Danton Heinen, who's got 4 in 19 games, and John Beecher, who's got 4 through 26 games as well, but with far fewer shots on goals. They need him to get going and pretty quickly here. Third on the team with 58 shots through 26 games, but that shooting percentage needs to come up here and soon. Matt Poitras also recently, got, I don't want to say an earful, but he got a message sent by being healthy scratched, by sitting in third period situations. He did play in the third and overtime against the Devils. So Jim Montgomery showing some faith in the young guy. I'm not saying the Bruins need him to have this huge offensive breakout, but if he can chip in offensively as well, the Bruins, would be better off for it. So those two guys I'm looking at to step up. Trent Frederic, I think also could. He's been rather quiet lately. He's got 6 goals, 6 assists through 27 games. But he could stand to take another step offensively here. And Oskar Steen, even if he's going to be in the lineup, he's got that wicked shot. 1 goal through 14 games isn't really going to cut it. So those are some guys I'm looking at, along with Morgan Geekie, who had that prime spot in the lineup the other day and will likely get another chance because he scored the goal. He played well in all situations. So those are some guys I'm looking at to step up here. Geekie, Poitras, DeBrusk, Frederic, and Steen, if he remains in the lineup. Or perhaps they elect to put Patrick Brown in there. We'll likely see some lineup shuffling with the back-to-backs against a couple pretty tough teams from New York here over the weekend. And we'll preview those here more after the break. As the weather gets colder, the deals on FanDuel remain red hot. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And it's not just for the NFL either. You can get in on the action with respect to Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NHL. And for example, tonight's over-under for the Bruins-Islanders game is set at 5.5 goals. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on the action this NFL, NBA, and NHL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, let's take a look at the pair of games the Bruins have ahead of them, and they're by no means easy ones. Tonight, they will take on the Islanders on Long Island, and right now, the Islanders are sitting second in the Metropolitan Division, 14, 7-7, 35 points, a .625 point percentage. Now, they are uncharacteristically porous when it comes to goals allowed. They're actually a -3 in terms of goal differential, which is third worst in the Metropolitan Division. And if you look at the Eastern Conference as a whole, that -3 is 10th or 11th, I should say. It's weird considering they have a couple really good goaltenders in Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov, but they do have some injuries on the back end, and a familiar face in Mike Riley has actually been stepping up and helping carry the load on the back end for the New York Islanders. So possible revenge game on tap. Bo Horvat has been very hot recently, 8 points over his last 5 games. 3 goals for Matt Barzal over that span, and 8 points as well for Noah Dobson, who's got 8 assists over his last 5 games. A very, very talented blue liner. Now, the Islanders, again, they're allowing one moment here. They're allowing 3.14 goals per game, which is 15th around the NHL, scoring 3.07 goals per game, which is 17th. The Bruins are allowing a 4th-ranked 2.48, scoring 3.22. Now, the Islanders are coming in hot for this one, 7-1-2 over their last 10, and they have won 4 in a row. So while they are somewhat vulnerable with some injuries on the back end with, I believe, Scott Mayfield, Sebastian Aho on the shelf, they still can score. This team can score, and they've got a couple pretty good goalies in Sorokin and Varlamov, although Varlamov has been outplaying Sorokin to a certain extent so far this season, and he got all the starts against the Bruins last year, if I recall. Keep an eye on Boston's power play because they have a guy who's leading the NHL in shorthanded goals in Simon Holmstrom. So that's a guy to keep an eye on from the Islanders' perspective. Not to mention, of course, Barzal, who's got 30 points in 27 games. I'm sure there'll be some 2015 tweets going on around tonight. And Bo Horvat, who's red hot, 26 points in his last 27 games. Now, if that game wasn't challenging enough for the Bruins, tomorrow night they will head back to Boston and take on the New York Rangers, who are 1 point back of the Bruins and who are just a smidge behind them in terms of point percentage as well. 741 versus 722. Their goal differential is +11. Boston, top of the East at +21. The New York Rangers are 6-4 over their last 10 games. They lost their last game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe it was, in a kind of a wild back and forth affair. Igor Shesterkin was very vulnerable in that one, so we'll see if he gets a start or if it is Jonathan Quick. I should note that Rangers are also in action tonight. They're hosting the Anaheim Ducks, so the Bruins won't necessarily be at a disadvantage in terms of the back-to-back and the travel, as the Bruins will be going from Brooklyn back to Boston. The Rangers will be going from Manhattan to Boston for tomorrow night's game as well. These are two big games for the Bruins, big tests with some guys banged up and missing from the lineup. Again, some others are going to need to step up in a big way in order for the Bruins to get the majority of the points this weekend. Overall, the Bruins, they're still tops in the East, as I mentioned, but they're kind of leveling off here a little bit. Over their last 10 games, they are 5-4-1. So that's a 550 point percentage, I believe. So there was some regression that was going to happen. Their last game, of course, they lost in overtime, and another tough test here coming up this weekend. I'll be watching the game tonight. I'll be tweeting, what have you, Xing. So be sure to follow at Ian C. McLaren and at Locked NHL Bruins for all the latest. A couple Western Conference opponents on deck following or ahead of the Christmas break, and we'll talk about these games this weekend and what's to come next week on Monday's brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. If you're gathering, as I am, for some holiday stuff this weekend, have a great time. And we'll talk to you again here on Monday.